What's going on? Good evening. My name is Iceman. Welcome back to Falcon 4.0 Allied Force. We just finished Chapter 2, which was learning to turn in the jet. In this video we're starting Chapter 3, so Mission 9. It's Chapter 3, which is landing and navigation. Okay? So this is what we're learning here. This is a pretty dope image. Landing and navigation. So let's begin. The following missions will teach you how to land the F-16, including how to perform an instrument landing, so bad weather, and a, quote, flame-out landing. You'll also learn the basics of navigation, including how to use steer points. So after Chapter 3, we are going to do, before we get into the AG and A weapons and stuff, we're going to do refueling. So we're going to do that afterwards. But okay. So Mission 9. Landing from 10 nautical miles out on final. So here's a picture of an airbase here with a little F-16 there, I think. This training mission will teach you how to land the Falcon. The F-16 is not hard to land if you do 3 things. Configure the aircraft correctly, get close to a 2.5 degree glide path, and, last but not least, control your airspeed. In this training mission, you will start lined up on final approach, but will have to accomplish these 3 things, and one more, in order to get the jet on the ground safely. Training mission overview. You will practice landing the aircraft from 10 nautical miles out, lined up on the final approach course, or FAC. Initial conditions. Airspeed, 200 knots. Altitude, 2,000 feet AGO, or above ground level. Throttle setting, mid-range. Configuration, gear up and clean. Position from the runway, 10 nautical miles out on the runway center line. Weapons mode, nav, so navigation. Mission description. This mission starts with you heading toward the runway, 10 nautical miles out. The jet is at 200 knots in level flight with the gear up. Perform the following steps to land the aircraft. Step 1. Load the training mission 09 landing final approach from the training section. Step 2. Line the flight path marker up with the 0 degree pitch line in the HUD to maintain level flight. Step 3. Press Shift Control Alt Sierra once to remove the heading tape for a better view on the runway. I'm not going to do that. Step 4. Get permission to land from the tower. To avoid being placed in the normal ATC air traffic control pattern, press T, Tango, and select, quote, declaring an emergency. Air traffic control will tell you which runway they have cleared to deal with your emergency. Make note of the runway assigned to you. Use the assigned runway to avoid other aircraft. I'm not going to do that because it's against protocol. You're not going to declare an emergency just to land quickly. So, in that respect, I'm just not going to talk to ATC at all. Step 5. Make sure your airspeed is below 300 knots. That's very important. Because if you are above 300 knots and you lower the landing gear, you'll break your gear. Literally. Step 6. Lower the landing gear by pressing Gulf. I got rid of that keybind. Or by clicking on the gear handle on the lower left cockpit console. So this gear handle right here. To switch to this console, move the view left with either your joystick hat switch if you have one, or a mouse click in the bottom left corner of the screen. So this is figure 9-1. So this is basically your landing gear handle and your lights and all your landing instruments and stuff. Notice that when the gear handle is placed down, the red light in the gear handle will come on, indicating the gear is in transition or transit. When the red light goes out, this means that the gear is down. The red light illuminates whenever one or more of the landing gear are not in the position that corresponds to the gear handle. When the gear handle is placed down, the light comes on until the gear are locked in the down position. When the gear handle is raised, the red light comes on again until the gear are up and locked. If the red light stays on, you have a problem with the landing gear. And depending on which light is on or off, will tell you which part of the gear is having issues. Look also at the 3 green lights above the gear handle to check that the gear are down and locked. If one of these lights is not illuminated after the gear handle is down, this indicates a problem with the gear. So one of these lights here. 1, 2, 3. The lights are arranged in a triangle with the top light indicating the nose gear, so at the very front of the aircraft, and the left and right lights representing the main gear. So this is left main gear, right main gear, nose gear. As the gear comes down and locks, you may notice another line appears on the hood, a line at 2.5 degrees below the horizon line. This is another aid to landing. Try to keep the flight path marker on this line to achieve the desired flight path. Of course, this is only applicable if you are correctly lined up. Another effect of lowering the gears is the flight control system, or FLICUS, switches into landing gains. This means the response from the controls is slightly reduced. You also find the additional drag from the undercarriage tends to angle the nose down a little. Another thing you'll see on the hood is what's called the E-bracket. You'll see the E-bracket, or staple, or whatever. Step 6. Once the gear are confirmed down and locked. Wait, step 6, wait, what? It wasn't even in... Okay, that's weird. Why is it step 6? Okay, that's weird. Oh, I guess it's continuing on with step 6. Once the gear confirmed down and locked, start slowing the jet to 160 knots by pulling some power off, so pulling your throttle back a little bit. Set your fuel flow to about 2,300 pounds per hour, or adjust your engine to about 75% on the RPM gauge. In all cases, check your rear airspeed. Look at the caret on the left side of the hood, the horizontal line. The sideways V, or Victor, on the hood is the caret for TOS, TOS, or time over steer point. Do not try to chase the TOS caret. Be sure to watch your airspeed closely during this phase of flight so you don't get too slow. Do not get below 160 knots until you're on the glide path and using the AOA, angle of attack bracket. So that's that E bracket that I was talking about, angle of attack bracket. Step 7. Again, while you are slowing down, be sure to keep the flight path marker on the lever line. 0 degrees of pitch, as shown in figure 9-3. So figure 9-2 is the RPM, so 2400 fuel flow, and RPM 75. Okay, that's what you want. And figure 9-3 is, what you want to see. Okay, and this is that caret, that sideways V. That's that caret right there. Okay. Interestingly, I do not see the angle of attack bracket anywhere. So he's in nav, he's not in landing mode. So it's figure 9-3. Step 8. As you look out on the horizon, you will see 2 wide strips and at least 1 narrow one. The wide strips are the 2 parallel runways, while the narrow strips are the taxiways. So what he's saying is, these are the narrow strips, taxiways, these wide ones, runway. If you are... Not all airports configured like that though. If you're on the left side of the runway, gently bank right until the runway is aligned below the airspeed tape. So, let's see, the airspeed tape on your hood. So, align it so the runway is like align. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. What? That is super confusing. I don't know why they're saying that. That is, don't even, yeah, no, don't. Just make it so that it's in the middle of your hood. If you're lined up too far to the right of the runways, turn to put the runways under your altitude tape on the hood. Oh, what they're saying is if you are too far, let's say to the right, then you want, let's see. if you're too far to the left side of the runway, for example, so if you were like over here going this way, so imagine the runways are shifted to the right. It's kind of hard to visualize, but just imagine that for a sec if you can. Imagine you're not heading straight. Let's see, do they have an image? No, they don't. Imagine you're not heading. Well, I'll show you in the air, but imagine you're not heading directly to the runway. Imagine the runways are over here. Then what you want to do is you want to bank right. You want to bank right so that you're not going parallel to the runway, but you're actually going this way, if that makes sense. So you can kind of get back into. So if the runway is, let's say the runway is like this cloud. Let's say if you take this cloud and just make it go forward instead. Let's say this cloud's the runway. So if you're coming this way, you don't want to keep going this way because you'll just pass the runway, right? So what you want to do is you want to turn right and keep going this way. Don't turn left again, but turn right, keep going right, keep going right, keep going right until the runway is in line with, one of your wings or your airspeed tape here is what they're talking about. And then as you're going this way and you line up, then you turn left and go into the runway. Conversely, if you are over here, you turn left, keep going left, keep going left, keep going left. Oh, we are parallel or whatever, so turn right and there you go. That's the best way for me to explain it. Okay, so if you're lined up too far to the right of the runways, turn to put the runways onto your altitude tape on the hood. Keep flying level until you can see down the center of the runway. When you're aligned with the runway, turn toward it until you're flying along the center line. You can press Lima to take a closer look at your alignment. Don't forget to press Lima again to return to normal view before continuing the approach. Step 9. When the runway threshold, the close end of the runway. So the runway threshold is the area that's before the runway markings. So it's like, usually it's like chevrons. They look like this with the mouse. Usually you have some markings, or at least you have some chevrons like that, and then you have runway markings. You want to land on the runway markings, not at the chevrons, because the chevrons are the threshold. So when the runway threshold, the close end of the runway reaches 3 degrees down in the hood. Extend the speed brakes by pressing Bravo and place the flight path marker on the runway threshold. So what you want to do is extend the speed brakes and then place the flight path marker, so this on the threshold. So right here, or right here. And then the runway threshold is the dark area at the close end of the runway. Figure 9-4 shows the jet in level flight with runway threshold 3 degrees down in the hood. Right, so 3 degrees down the hood, so it's about right here. So what you want to do is then shift the flight path marker down that way by lowering your speed, or lowering your throttle, and keeping with level flight until you get to a good AOA. Angle of attack of 2.5 degrees or whatever it is. Right, so figure 9-5 shows the jet at the proper airspeed on a 3 degree glide path. You will not need to make a big power change since 2,000 pounds per hour will hold approximately 160 knots with the gear down and the speed brakes open when the jet is descending. Let's look at the landing symbology in the hood. When the landing gear are down, so let's go there, figure 9-5. Well, see, it doesn't show the AOA. Yeah, it doesn't show that. Okay, this is pretty bad because it doesn't show the AOA bracket or anything. But so I'll show you in the sim. Let's look at the landing symbology in the hood. Wait, yeah. When landing go down, an AOA bracket will appear in the hood. You can instantly see the jet's AOA by noting the position of the flight path marker in relation to this bracket in the hood. The correct angle of attack for an approach is 11 degrees. To fly the correct approach airspeed, keep the flight path marker at the top line of the bracket. Also, your AOA indexer will be the chevron, this one here. It won't be the circle. It's a common misconception. It won't be the circle. It will be this here, the bottom one. So figure 9-5, below glide slope, pull up and add some power. So if you're here, you pull up, add power. Desired 3 degree glide slope will work fine. If you're above the glide slope here, pitch down and reduce power so you can get back on it. Okay. Step 10. Once you're pointing at the runway threshold, use power to control your airspeed and keep the flight path marker at the end on the runway. Usually it's pitch to control airspeed, throttle to control altitude. It's actually opposite to what they're saying here. So what they're saying here, I guess you can do it either way, but in reality, you should really try to use power to control, so your throttle, your engine power to control your altitude, how fast you're descending, your descent rate, and your pitch to control your airspeed. So once you're pointing at the runway threshold, use power to control your airspeed and keep the flight path marker at the end of the runway. Remember that the top of the bracket is 11 degrees, and the bottom is 15 degrees. Use power to fly at 11 degrees, angle of attack. Now let's talk more about the AOA bracket. It's okay to let the flight path marker drift down to the middle of the bracket, 13 degrees AOA during your approach, but do not let it get to the bottom of the bracket, 15 degrees AOA. It is difficult to control the aircraft at 15 degrees AOA and get it on the runway safely. In addition, if you hit the runway too hard while landing at 15 degrees AOA, you can scrape the speed brakes, and you can damage your landing gear. Step 11. As the jet gets down to 100 feet above the runway, it's time to flare. A flare is simply a maneuver to decrease your sink rate, so basically your descent rate, in order to gently place the jet on the runway. To flare the F-16, slowly shift your aim point from the threshold down to the far end of the runway. Do this by pulling back very gently on the joystick to move your flight path marker down the runway towards the opposite end of the runway. Another thing you can do is give it a little bit of power. As you pull slightly back on the stick, watch the flight path marker slowly creep up. Make sure that the flight path marker stays below the edge of the far end of the runway during this maneuver. Keep the airspeed about 130 knots until you hear the tires touch down. The throttle should be brought slowly back to idle as you flare. If you try to flare when the jet is too fast, or you don't pull the power back as you flare, you will balloon or start to climb away from the runway. The other extreme is to come in too slow and drop the jet onto the runway. In either case, push the power up and go around for another try. Sometimes you will need to add in a little more power after you get into the flare, just to cushion the landing. That's what I was talking about. Step 12. Once you touch down and hear the tires screech on the runway, gently pull the gun cross up above the 10-degree pitch line on the hood to, quote, it's called aerobrake the aircraft. So you're aerodynamically braking the aircraft by letting the relative wind hit the nose of the jet and the body of the jet to slow it down, from the air hitting it. In the F-16, the body of the aircraft is used as a giant speed brake. Okay. The gun cross is used as a pitch reference during the aerobrake because the flight path marker gets unreliable once you touch down on the runway. When the jet finally slows below about 100 knots, the nose will fall through to the runway. Again, be sure the throttle is in idle all the way back. Step 13. To make this a great landing, you should park your F-16 and shut down. First, engage the nose with steering so you can turn on the ground using shift /. Taxiing the aircraft takes a little practice, so if you come to a complete halt, you will find you will need a reasonable amount of power to get moving again. You are overcoming the static friction. Once moving, you need to cut back the power a little, else you will start to accelerate. Taxi to the end of the runway. Normally, you don't need much extra power to achieve this. When you see the taxiway, turn off, take it, and find yourself a parking place. If you get too fast while taxiing, press kilo to engage the wheel brakes for slowing down. So figure 9-6, aim point shifting down the runway. So you want the aim point, so the flight path marker here, you want to shift it up. Step 14, once parked, you should then go through the shutdown checklist. Ejection seat, unarmed. Click on the lever below the gear handle on the left console. Speed brakes, closed. Press Bravo if needed. Master arm, safe. That should actually be done way before you land. Avionics power switch is off. Switch off the engine, throttle to idle, and toggle the idle detent. Alt to India. Wait for the engine to start the spool down, and the main generator warning light to activate. Turn master power and engine feed off on the far left console. Open the canopy, click on the yellow lever on the left console. Left to the store's config switch. This is your first attempt and you need a little more help. You can press Alt Hotel to display a track in the sky which shows where to head for. Oh, I didn't know you could do that. That's cool. Landing guides. That's dope. For more details, see chapter 24. I got rid of that though because I don't want that help. Landing the jet would take some practice since Falcon Allied Force so faithfully reproduces the F-16. You get the hang of it with some practice though, so keep trying until you get the sight picture down. Use the above procedures as a starting place to make repeated practice approaches. Each pilot has his or her own techniques, and you will soon develop your own. Some pilots swear by AOA brackets, others by flight path marker, and others by the feel. Once you have the technique, you'll find it gets easier, as the picture gets locked in your mind. However, you may find after a few successful landings, you suddenly lose the knack, and some more practice is required. Another common pitfall is the so-called land at any cost itis, that those pilots who have made a number of successful landings get into. If it's not working out as you get close to the runway, apply full power and go around. A bit of extra burnt fuel is much cheaper than a new F-16. Right, so I'm not gonna go through the checklist or anything here. I'm just going to kind of teach it myself because it's kind of hard to like read this at the same time, even if I have my phone. So what I'm gonna do is basically do the shutdown checklist and everything the way I want to do it. So the way it's supposed to be done, because it's not exactly completely realistic. Like all the checklists and stuff. But yeah, all this stuff like 60 knots with the gear down, speed brakes open and stuff, that's all true. That's like people do that. So, you know, that's a normal thing. But yeah. So yeah, that's that. But yeah, you don't want to go below 130 knots, because you'll stall at that point. So yeah, that's that. So that's everything to do with landing for final. So yep, let's start Falcon 4.0 Allied Force and get going. Alright, so everything looks good here. Let me turn this down a little bit because the game's been super loud before, so I'm actually going to turn it down to about half, like that. So I'm just going to do that so that we can hear my voice better, because when I go outside in the external view, everything's been super loud, so I'll turn that down. So let's speed over to it. So landing final approach, here we go. You're on an extended final approach. Carefully manage your airspeed, line up with the runway, and practice the all-important flare before touchdown. Alright, so let's do it. Alright, so this is gonna go quite quick. I'll try to cover everything that I remember in the manual there that we read. So once this loads, I'm probably gonna do like a couple circles or something so that I can tell you like what's going on. Okay, so we're in the jet. Alright, so let me go out to this here. Let's see, Alt-H, does that work? Oops. Take off landing config. Just give power there. Okay, so the first thing you want to do, so let's just zoom in here. You see, okay, I can't pause it because I got rid of the pause key. So, fuck, I don't have a mouse, shit. Well, you see the runways there, right? You see the runways there, runway there. So, let me do that. That doesn't work, damn it. As you can see, so we are on nav right now and we're past 300 knots. So what we need to do is, so like we're left of the runway, right? Let me we're left of the runway, right? So what we need to do is to line up with the runway, we want to keep going straight. We want to turn to the right here like this. Level out like that. Actually a little bit more. A bit like that. We'll land on the, so we're landing on the right runway. Let's do the right runway. Actually, we'll do the left runway to make it easy, but see now we're lining up at the runway, so we turn back, keep the flight path marker there, And I kind of botched it a little bit, but as you can see, that's what you do, right? So now, if we zoom in, we are pretty much at the runway. So, we're pretty much lined up at the runway. You see the flight path marker there? Now it's at the threshold. So that is the threshold, that dark area at the very beginning where the flight path marker circle is, in the middle of the circle of the flight path marker. That is the runway threshold. So where you want to land is right there, where the numbers are, where the flight path marker is. Oops, sorry. And then when you want to shift it up, you shift it to the end, right there. Right about there. So that's what you do. And flaring is where you basically do this. You kind of just... You do that at the very end. Let me restart the mission so I can actually go in and do this for you. Alright. We're in the game. We are 190 knots, so what I'm going to do is give it a little bit of power. And the first thing I'm going to do is check master arm off. Well, actually, I'm going to... Hold on, let me just show you the... Let me turn this down real quick, or put the gear down. So this little bracket thing right there, that little, where my mouse is, that little bracket thing is that AOA bracket. So what you want is you want your flight path marker. You want your flight path marker right at the top, right there, of the bracket. So not where it is now, but there. You want it right there. It's hard to see. You can't see it right now, but see. Look at the flight path marker. You zoom in. The flight path marker. You see where it is with that little sideways staple there on the HUD. You want the flight path marker right there. That's where you want it, the whole way through. And if you do that, and you stay around like 170 knots, 160 knots, or whatever, we are currently at like 11 degrees AOA, so we are at the correct angle for landing. And if you look at your AOA indexer, we're about 11 right there. So that's what we want. This is the angle we want to land at, right about here. This is the angle we want to land at. See, the AOA is plus 12. Let me bring it down a little bit. Plus 11. So this is where we want to land. We want to land with the AOA like this. Get that down, arrest that a bit. There we go. We want to rest it just about there. Like that. That's how you want to land. Like that. So let me restart one more time. And when you flare, you just go a little bit of, keep the power where it is and pull up just like that and let it land. You always want the main gear to land for you always want the main gear to touch down first. I'll show you what happens real quick if you land the wrong way. So I'll show you what not to do. Alright, so we're in the sim. Give it a little bit of power. And so I'll show you what not to do as far as landing. So what not to do is, well, you can see we're pretty much lined up with the left runway, right? Pretty much lined up with the left runway. So where that flight path marker is, you can see pretty much lined up, right? So that's what we want. So we are below 300 knots, so we can safely bring the gear down. Let me show you what happens if you go above 300 knots with the gear down. Watch. Gear down. I'm going to break the gear doing this, but you'll see. So the gear's fine, right? The gear's fine right now. But if you go past 300 knots, look at your airspeed. If you go past 300 knots, you'll get a bang and you'll get a warning and you pretty much damage your gear. Watch. Eight, 9, 10 knots. Alright, gear's now broken. Come on, break. Did it break? Why did the gear not break? What? There we go. Ha! Yep, it's broken. Yep, it broke. Oh shit, it ripped off. My gear ripped off. I didn't even know it. Oh fuck. I didn't know it would rip off. I thought it just broke. But okay, so it ripped off. That's why you don't do that. Out of interest, I kind of want to see it rip off. So here comes the gear. So let's go full burn and watch this shit. Sorry, I know it's off topic. We're not actually doing what we're supposed to be doing right now, but I just want to see this. Let's go full burn and watch this shit. Ha! Maintenance is gonna be pissed. Goodbye, gear. Down. Can I put the gear back up? No, it's literally fucked. I destroyed the gear. That's hilarious. That was funny as hell. If I remember correctly, in Falcon 4.0 unenforced, it doesn't matter if you're set to invulnerable or not, your gear will still break. So just, yeah, be aware of that. Alright, so let's actually get to this. So we already know how to line up with the runway. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn this off. I'm going to turn this off. Landing light on. Off. Well, actually not yet, but actually we could have just turned this to standby, but just switch it off. Alright, so we're pretty much good. Technically you would just check everything, make sure master arm is off and shit, which it is. There's arm off. And then yeah, we're below 300 knots, so we can safely put the gear down. So gear down. Alright, check the green. We got 3 green. Good. Down and locked. Alright, so now let's go to virtual cockpit. And we put the flight path marker at the end of the runway. The close end of the runway, mind you. So right about there. And we slowly just keep the throttle low to about 160 knots. Just give it a little bit of power. And I know it says like 75 RPM and shit. That's fine, but in reality, you always got to play with it just a little bit. Okay, so this is perfect here. So look at this. Flight path marker is pretty much on the threshold. I actually need to arrest my sync rate a little bit because you see I got the green circle. I don't want that. And I also don't want that either, because then you'll stall. That's too high of an angle of attack. So what I want that yellow chevron there, not the red, not the green, but the orange chevron there, at the very end there is what I want. So 11 degrees about, thereabouts. So that's what I'm gonna do. So another way you can just do it is just check the flight path marker, or check the bracket. And now we're too high, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to lower. So you just baby steps, you know? It's kind of something you got to just practice, and you'll get it. But yeah, so this is the kind of angle of attack we want right here. So we've got to shift it up just a little bit because we want it on the threshold. So we want the flight path marker right there. So we want to keep it there. So just play with the throttle, keep the flight path marker there. I'll show you what happens when you don't flare and you touch the nose gear first. You can bounce and it can be very dangerous. You can actually break the gear. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to do this wrong, so don't do this. Shift the flight path marker up. So nose gear first. Well, I didn't actually bounce. I should have bounced. Oh, it didn't actually bounce me. Okay, well, let me just... I know they say get a clearance and stuff, but yeah, I'm not even going to bother with that. So the jet was supposed to bounce because I touched the nose gear first, so it's supposed to bounce, but the physics in this are not implemented enough for that, apparently. I thought it was, but it's not. So yeah, but so you want the regular gear or the main gear first to you know, you want the main gear to do it first, or to touch down first. So I don't know why this is all off. Okay, so get down. So 3 green, we're good. Alright. Let's continue. Let's land. Alright, so I will show you how to land on the long runway. And you can land on the short runway too. It's really up to you. It's just, you know, you have to be more careful because it's a shorter runway, you know. You have to land perfectly right on the right past the threshold. In fact, we'll land on this first. And then when we do the actual landing, well, I'll show you. You know what? The short runway will be harder. So let me do the easier one first. So as you can see, we're not doing too well with this approach because our speed is too high and we're not at the correct angle of attack for the approach. So what we need to do is pull back on the stick a little bit, lower the throttle, and get that AOA the way it's supposed to be, and put the flight path marker on the threshold of the runway, which is right about there, and just keep it there like that. Give it a little bit of power. And do not trim in pitch ever in the F-16. Well, at least for landing. Don't trim in pitch. You don't need to. The jet will do it on its own. So as you can see, we're actually not right at the correct angle of attack here. And the 2.5 degree dive bar is the dashed line. I can't show it right now, but so look where the flight path marker is. It's right above the 6 dashes, the 6 dashed horizontal line. You can see, well, I can't show it really, but it's kind of obscured. But that's the 2.5 degree dive bar. So you technically want that on the threshold of the runway as well. So you want all 3 to marry up. So as you can see, this is kind of a shitty approach, but it'll do for now. So now we're able to flare. So pull back on the throttle, pull back a little bit, make sure the AOA is not too high, and we kind of bounced a little bit, but and we keep the aero brake, so we keep back pressure on the stick until like 15 or whatever, like just like that. All right. 100 knots, so let the nose fall and brake as hard as you can, because now we are going to possibly run the end of the runway. So that's how you land. Let me do the short runway now. Alright, so let's do standby, off, power, on. Alright, so yeah, so I'm gonna do the short one right now, and this is the one we're gonna shut down at. So I'm gonna shut down and everything, taxi with the runway, shut down. Show you how to do that. Okay, so yeah, I'm not gonna really speak much during this one because I can't really do both at the same time, like speak and concentrate. So so you can see we're a little bit to the left of the runway, so we have to go to the right a little bit. And now we're going to turn left and line up with the runway. And we're below 300 knots, so landing light, get down. 3 green, we're good. Fucking hell. Damn it. Zoom's annoying. Alright, so we're a little fast. So you want that 2.5 degree dive bar to be on the threshold. So I'm going to put it on the threshold by doing this. By getting lower. Just like that. There we go. Now it's on the threshold. Shift the flight path marker up. So it's on the threshold, just like that. And then slowly pull back and throttle to idle and just try to get that angle of attack the way you want it needs to be. So right about there. This is a perfect approach so far. This is what you want right here. And you just play with the throttle. You just play with the throttle. Just play with the throttle just like that and marry all three just like that. This is a perfect approach. So let me zoom out. So you can see it in context. So right on the threshold. And don't worry, I know you want to pull back on the stick because you think you're going to crash, but you're not, so don't worry, you'll be fine. Alright, so shift the flight path marker up now, a little bit of power. A little bit of power, shift it up, flare, idle, and just let it coast down. Just like that. And I forgot the speed brakes both times, so that's my bad. You're supposed to use the speed brakes, but I didn't. I'm going to show you that technically you're supposed to use the speed brakes, but I need to slam on the brakes here because this is a short runway. I'm probably going to run the end of the runway or off the threshold. Hey, I just made it. So let me I forgot to use the speed brakes like an idiot. So let me do it one more time on the long runway so I can show you how to do it properly with the speed brakes. The fact I was able to do that without the speed brakes both times is actually pretty impressive. Not gonna lie. Alright, so let me configure. So off, standby, landing light, on, flash. Alright, so we'll go to the left runway now. So gear down. Three green, we're good. Alright. Alright, so we are lined up. So speed brakes out. What the hell? Oh. Wait. Okay. I forgot the key. Forgot the key behind. I had to figure it out. Oh shit, it's... There we go. I was wondering why it was so weird. Okay. Alright, so when you're in the air... So when you're... The reason it's not open all the way is because we're in the air. So the F-16's speed brakes won't fully open up in the air with the gear down. And that's because it doesn't... You don't want the speed brakes to touch the tarmac. So it does it on purpose. So when you actually land and you command the speed brakes to go full, it will... The speed brakes will do what they're supposed to. They will open up all the way. I'm not sure in a Falcon Light Force if it does it automatically or not, but yeah. So speed brakes are open, as you saw. We're very slow, so I'm gonna give it some power. Because I was fiddling around the camera. So you need a higher throttle setting with the speed brakes, okay? But that's good because your throttle can, your engine is more responsive in higher power settings. So what you want is pretty much this. Yeah, you want this right here. That's what you want for the... We're at 11 degrees AOA, as you can see. About 11 degrees. And I'm botching it now. Going too fast. It's kind of a... It's an okay landing. But you want to land right here, so flight path marker up, idle power, let it coast down to the ground. It bounced a little bit.
Cowboy 1-1 Benicia Tercera power.
Now I'm not gonna do the aero brake. Let's do the Oh no, my speed brakes went down. Oh, went away. Damn it. I don't know why it did that, but okay, so we're basically safe. So we can do the nose with steering. Turn off this next taxiway here. Oh shit. Going too fast. Let's go all the way around. Turn right. It's kind of aggressive, but we did it. So what I'm gonna do is technically you put the speed brakes in and stuff, but turn that line light off at this point, but they went in automatically. They went in by themselves, or they went in when I commanded them. So I wanted them to open up completely, but it didn't work. So I don't know. It's not supposed to do that. Is this the tower? That is so weird. If that's the tower, that's weird. So oh shit. We're just gonna park anywhere. For 2005, this is not bad. All these little, all these things here. That's dope. Little parking space here. That just goes into the hangar, so I'm just gonna park here. So what was supposed to happen with the speed brakes was I was supposed to be able to do this. Like, it was supposed to be like... It's supposed to be like here, like it was, right? Like, so it was just like a little bit open. And when I was supposed to land, I wanted it to do that. So it would go all the way open. But instead, it just closed. So that's what happened there. It wasn't supposed to do that, but I don't know. I don't know what to say. So what I'm going to do now is, since that was successful, I'm going, well, technically, when I turned off the taxiway, I should have done that, saved my eject seat. You know, put the ejection safety lever up when I got off the taxiway, but I didn't. But I was supposed to do that then. So what I'm going to do is pack it back on. This off. Basically turn everything off. I'm surprised I didn't do it that way, but off. So I'm gonna do off, and then HUD off, and then so the avionics is off. Keep the lights on. Well, yeah, I'm gonna keep the lights on until technically the lights in Falcon 4.0 Allied Force don't work properly, aren't implemented properly. Technically, I would keep them on until the engine goes off, but I'm just going to turn them off now because they stay on. So I'm just going to turn them off. Let's do that. IFF, I would turn that off, and then I would this all the way off. Off, and that's pretty much it. Just shut the engine off, and yep, shut the engine off. So detent like that. The lights come on. Wait till the engine goes past 20%, and then let me just hit that master caution, and then yeah, that's that. And then I'm going to do engine feed off, air source off, and everything's good. So yeah, off, electric system off, and canopy open. So that's how you shut down the F-16, at least in Falcon 4.0 Allied Force. That's how you would do it, you know? Damn, that actually looks dope. That's dope. But yeah, so, yeah, that's dope. So yeah, that's all for this part, guys. That's all for like the final approach. It's kind of difficult to explain because it's not really something that, like, it's trainable, but you have to try it. You have to do it in order to like really figure out what I'm talking about. Because just me telling you and showing you is not enough. It's kind of things where you got to learn by doing a little bit. but you have to, like, you can use my instruction, but you also have to see it for yourself. You have to try it yourself, experiment with it, in order to do it properly, you know? And granted, my landings weren't the best, but I mean, we got down safely, you know? And that's what matters in the end. So, yep, that's all for this video, guys. If you liked it, smash the like button like a badass, leave a comment. I will see you guys next time. Farewell.